What's cool? What's going on? Cincinnati Bengals. Let's go at number 14. Let's get right into this after I get my contract extension. Mike, Duke, where you at? I want my money, man. I'm not doing this out with my contract. The jokes are all coming out. I know it's pretty bad. Let's get into it though. Without a contract extension, on the offensive line, you start off with the tackle position. Orlando Brown Jr., Amarius Mims. I think it's a solid group. Yeah, it's a little low for me at 28. It just comes down to Amarius Mims taking that next step. He looks pretty good as a rookie. You got Orlando Brown Jr. He's not an elite left tackle, but he's solid. You know what I mean? Like, he gets the job done, and he'll be able to protect Joe Burrow's blind side. Jalen Rivers figures on to be their main swing tackle going into the future. Now, Cody Ford, early in the season, could be the swing tackle that they call upon. It depends if he wins that right guard position or not. However, yeah, he could be their main swing tackle at the beginning of the season. And then long term, I think Jalen Rivers ends up being the main swing tackle. ETN and Cochran are going to be competing for those 4th and 5th spots and practice squad candidates, even with Cochran there as well. Now, interior-wise, this is definitely where some of, like, a guard, this is their biggest weakness right now on the roster. I rank up at 31. I really do like Dylan Fairchild, though, okay? But I do have to factor in, like, trying to keep the biases aside. You have to think about this as a whole. It is definitely going to be a little bit strugglesome for this football team. And there's still question marks on who's going to start. Cordell Volson is going to be competing with Dylan Fairchild. Volson could end up missing the roster if he struggles in training camp. It wouldn't shock me. Maybe they want to go with like a Jackson Kirkland instead on the roster if you want to go a little bit cheaper, which is definitely an option for them. Lucas Patrick, Cody Ford, to me, are going to be competing. And Volson could be competing for that right guard position as well. So make the best man win. They need it, right? Let's just try to get a good starting guard over there. But I do think Fairchild is going to man up one of those guard positions and be really, really solid. That's a guy that I had a draft crush on. I'm surprised, actually, he didn't really get much draft hype, which guy coming out of Georgia, you don't normally see that. He's really strong. He's super powerful. And yeah, maybe he's not the like most laterally agility guy or anything, but I didn't think that was ever like a real limiting factor for him. Maybe other than like on the move in the second level and stuff like that. Maybe he's not going to be the greatest zone blocker or anything, which is fine for this offensive line in their scheme. So put him in that phone booth. He's going to be just fine. He's got that pop on contact. He's aggressive, but not like too crazy aggressive where he's constantly over his toes or anything like that. And I think his punch is unbelievable. So we'll see about Fairchild. He kind of reminds me a little bit of like a career trajectory. I mean, they're different players in terms of their strengths and weaknesses, but like Ted Karras in terms of the mentality and whatnot. And speaking of Ted Karras, like him a ton. He personifies the who day mentality to a T, and he's definitely a leader for them on this, not just the offensive line, but this football team. So having him with that experience for Joe Burrow in this offense is critical. Backup-wise at the center position, Matt Lee I think he may end up being their long-term center. I like Matt Lee a lot, and I do think he has all the tools. If he continues to learn and develop, I think he will be the long-term center for this football team. But they did get Seth McLaughlin, too, in here, who's got some upside. I feel like he was being a little bit scrutinized because of the snapping issues at Alabama. And yeah, it was a problem, of course. However, like, he's got a lot of good college football tape, and I do think he was being very underrated. So we'll see what happens. He's going to be out for probably this entire season. So he's more of a guy you watch next year, and they'll keep an eye on things. And maybe he makes the roster next year and go from maybe a practice squad this year / I think he's on the NFI right now or whatever. So any which way, that's kind of my offensive line and where I'm at. The guard position is certainly going to have to come along. It's going to be my biggest question mark here. But however, at least you have 2 solid tackles and a good center, and that can help out a little bit on the interior there. On to the wide receivers here. It's a great one. It's an elite one. I recommend number 2. I could easily make the argument that they're number 1. I don't want to spoil who I have at my number 1 wide receiver. The reason I have the other team over this team at the number 1 position, I just feel better about the overall depth. Like, they've got like 5 wide receivers that I would consider to be able to start for most teams out there. With this, though, very good. You got an elite. They probably have the best 1-2 punch in the NFL with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. You got Andre Yoshivas, who's no schmuck, okay? And that might even be a little bit of, I think it's a little bit of a low ranking. I probably need to move Yoshivas up a little bit. He was actually very good for them in the slot and on the outside. Gives them a vertical threat, too. You got Jermaine Burton. I need to see more out of. Like, the talent's there with him, but the off-the-field stuff has been the big thing. So we'll see with Burton. He's a total wild card. You got Charlie Jones, figures to be the backup slot this season. Isaiah Williams, I think will make the roster for special teams, punt return, kick return type of stuff there. A dude I want to keep an eye out on, Jordan Moore. I actually like Moore better than maybe even Burton or Charlie Jones. Coming out of Duke, I think he was super underrated. The quarterback play was a little bit disastrous this past season with Malik Murphy. You got Kendrick Pryor, too, in there. I think has a chance to practice squad and they can work him up. I really say, watch out for Jordan Moore. That dude can run routes and he can catch the football. Really underrated football player. You got Mays, who makes the international. They could put him on as like a 16th practice squad guy for the football team for free. On to the tight end room. It looks good, and I rank it at 23, but this was before the Noah Fant thing, or the signing, so I would move it up a little bit, maybe move it into the top 20. Noah Fant, if he makes the roster, will be a solid. So looking at it right now, I think Sample is your inline guy. You got Gesicki and Fant as your big slot weapons. Eric Hall, unfortunately, is done for the season. You got Cam Grandy, who played well as a blocker last year, so I think he ends up making the roster. However, there are options here. If they want to go really young and they want to only keep 4 tight ends, then McLaughlin, and you're going to have competition with him and Hudson and Grandy for that 4th spot. So that's just going to see how it goes there. If they keep 5, then I would guess that McLaughlin, the 2 Tanners, right, are going to be battling out for a position. My guess would they would give it to McLaughlin because of the youth and with the upside there on him. On to the running back room. And you got Chase Brown. You got a good one. He's really dynamic. He's really good in the receiving game. And he can also pass protect. So he's definitely the number 1 guy here. Especially after they go Zach Moss. You got Samaje Perine coming in, who's also a good pass protector. Good experience back in Cleveland and Cincinnati. Sorry, I know. Woo, it's real bad. But Taj Brooks at the 3rd running back spot. They must feel good about Taj Brooks as well. He is a little underrated coming out of Texas Tech. The dude just seemed to pick up 5 yards every single time at Texas Tech. He is a tough tackle, and I think he'll feature as a great power back for this football team, and ultimately probably why they let go Zach Moss. And then in terms of 4th running back, I think Milton will end up making it there, or at least a practice squad if they only want to keep 3. And then, like I said, have Milton on a practice squad. Connolly could be another guy on the practice squad. 28th is my ranking. They'll get the job done here. It's not an elite room, but it's fine. And then quarterback-wise, it's Joe Burrow, so we don't really need to talk about this too much. Quarterback ranking here at number 3. Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes are the only ones above him here. And ultimately, yeah, you could sell me on Joe Burrow being the best quarterback in the NFL. I think, though, with the Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl rings, Josh Allen is really good. I mean, it's so tough, right? But you got a great backup, too, with Jake Browning, so one of the better backups in the NFL. Let's go on to the defense. Where the defensive line, oh, baby, what do you talk about? And you got to go ahead and talk about Trey Hendrickson getting back in the building. Now, I understand there's a business side to it. In Cincinnati, they don't want a whole ton of dead money on their cap. They don't do the whole Philadelphia Eagles restructure and those sort of things. And I respect that. I do. At the same time, you want to keep your good football players. So hopefully they work out a win-win situation. You got Shamar Stewart now back in the building. And it would be great to be able to learn from a guy like Trey Hendrickson to have him there. So I would love to see that. Then you have competition. I mean, Stewart's going to compete in with Joseph Asai and Myles Murphy, but I think that right now is going to be a huge battle for who is the other starter opposite, presumably, of Trey Hendrickson as we go into the season. Myles Murphy, come on, man. We got to see you this season going to year number 3. Cam Sample, just want to see him get healthy. He's a good football player. They can be a good rotational piece, and he definitely needs to get healthy. And then in terms of if they want to keep a 6th edge rusher, you're going to have some competition between the 2 Johnsons and Thompson. I think Cedric Johnson would be the guy there, and then they would practice squad Johnson and Thomas. Interior-wise, I rank it at 25th. A little bit of unprovenness with some of these guys out here, like McKinley Jackson and Chris Jenkins. If you see, I have my nose tackle 1 techs on the left. You have the 3 techs and, rotational 1 techs, 2, of course. They can play up and down the defense line. Up on the right with B.J. Hill, who is back on a contract extension. You got Chris Jenkins going into year number 2. Taven Bryant's going to be competing for a roster spot. And then you got Howard Cross, the 3rd from Notre Dame, coming in here with Al Golden. I like him a lot. I really do. If you can tell by my rankings, I think he'll end up getting practice squad, and maybe he'll work his way through, maybe the next season as a situational pass rusher at some point in his career. At least that's my hope. Brian is going to be an interesting dude to watch out for in camp. All right, I think he's definitely a wild card for this football team. Jenkins, Jackson, Slayton, Hill are your locked-in players that are going to be in rotation. If they only keep 4, though, then that would be the 4. If they keep 5, then Brian, Cross, Gregory going to be competing for that other spot. On to the linebacking position, which I rank at 26 in the NFL. There's some turnover here. You lose Akeem Davis-Gaither and Jermaine Pratt. How are they going to look? I think they're actually going to be pretty good. And going into the future, I think they might even be better. You got Demetrius Knight. You got a 2nd-round pick. You got Barrett Carter, 4th-round pick. Carter's going to be more of that Will style. And then Knight's going to be more of that Mike style. And the reason I say that is because Knight really is like a tenacious blitzer, run-defending monster, chase-down guy. Maybe lacks the one-on-one coverage ability, the stack and shed on the line. Those are not really his strengths. And when you got Barrett Carter, who's more of can cover guys, he can play at the line, he can play that Sam linebacker role too if they need him. He did that at Clemson. So Carter's a guy I really like. I thought he was super underrated in the draft too. He had a bit of a down season. Overall, though, like the tools are there. That guy could be a legit monster for this football team. Logan Wilson, we know, is a solid starter, good football player, can be the leader for them in this linebacking core. Warren Burks a good free agent signing as well. I like that signing. He was really good for Philadelphia this past season, stepped up for injuries too. So he's a guy that I think could end up being the day one starter for them with Logan Wilson. And they're going to run 3 linebackers too. Al Golden in his 4-3 defense, he does utilize 3 linebackers. Not all the time, right? They're still going to be mostly in 2 linebacker sets. However, they will use 3 linebackers. So I expect them to keep 5 linebackers in this room. Carter, Burks, Knight, and Logan Wilson are all locked in my eyes. It comes down to that 5th linebacker position. I'm a little biased. I'm a huge Muma Jungmeta fan. Let's go. I think he was super underrated going into last year's draft. And Wisconsin linebacker, that guy is instinctual as all can be. I've watched a ton of film on him. And he was a beast last year too, just on special teams. Just watching them out there, I thought Muma made a ton of plays for them in critical moments on special teams. So hopefully he can be a good 5th linebacker for them, but he will have competition for that 5th spot with Shaka Hayward. I think he'd probably be their most likely, but Joe Giles-Harris gives us more experience. Maybe see how that works out. My guess though is Hayward or Jungmeta end up making the practice squad. One of those guys will be on the roster, won't be on practice squad. On to the cornerback room, which I ranked 30th in the NFL. They struggled last season big time. Daxton Hill, getting him healthy is going to be critical. Cam Taylor-Britt bouncing back will also be critical for this football team. Now, Al Golden's going to play a little more press man coverage, I would imagine, in this scheme. I think that's going to benefit guys like Cam Taylor-Britt, Daxton Hill, Josh Newton. And when you look at this room as a whole, it's not lacking of upside. I'll tell you that right now. Cam Taylor-Britt going into a contract year, this is a prove-it situation for him. Definitely some motivation. I think that he is a more talented corner than what he put on display last year. And in more of a man coverage scheme, I think he'll really thrive. I mean, he isn't the most laterally gifted athlete or nothing like that, but on a vertical plane, he's super dangerous. He is an outside corner. Daxton Hill can play a little inside out. He is got the lateral twitch. I think he is the twitchiest corner that they have in terms of press man in this coverage unit. That guy can move. It just comes down to the injuries with Daxton Hill, but that dude can cover. I've seen him cover Chris Godwin at a high level, multiple receivers, some good receivers. He's able to cover those guys. So if he can, the potential with Daxton Hill, I'm still not ready to give up on that guy because I know he can play and he can cover corner or wide receivers out there with the best of them. Now you're looking at who could be that 3rd guy, right? Josh Newton, DJ Turner. I think that's your big competition here. I do think Turner's more of a zone corner, whereas Newton is more of a man-style corner. They'll rotate. I'm saying Al Golden's going to play man coverage all the time, right? I'm talking when man coverage, the higher teams play 30 to 50% man coverage. That's the most you're going to see is 50. Most of the time it's 30% range, 30, 40%. So Newton, Turner can work in there, compete. We'll see who ends up winning the job there. I like Newton a lot. I like Turner. I think Newton is really good at covering guys for 2 to 3 seconds. When it comes to if you're having long developing plays, redirecting, things like that, he lacks the athleticism and ability to cover for long periods of time. However, once again, if you're getting aggressive on defense and you're okay, Newton, I want you to cover for 3 seconds. I want you to just hold him down. Newton can do that really, really well. So just kind of figuring some of those limitations in there in this cornerback room. In terms of depth, too, you got Marco Wilson, DJ Ivey, Jalen Davis, all going to be competing. Maybe 2 of those guys end up making the roster. Ivey, I think, is a perfect scheme fit for them. I think he has a good chance of making the roster. Wilson's going to have some competition there with Jalen Davis, and who they want to keep is certainly, kind of come down to special teams purposes, who they feel like can be a good backup as well. On to the safety room here, which I rank at 31st in the NFL. I know it's low. They got to bounce back. They got to prove it this year. I do think they'll be better, just like with the cornerback room. I guess it can't get a whole ton worse, you're saying, right? Knock on something. But when you look at Geno Stone, can be the back-end coverage guy. Jordan Battle can play up in the face, can play up in the box quite a bit. It is a good complementary set of skills. And both guys are super talented. It's not reminiscent of their skills because I know they have the skills to do it in a play at a high level in the NFL. You got Tyson Anderson, who's really more their proven 3rd guy, I would say, the most proven out of any of these guys. Their depth is a little concerning, but Daxton Hill can also play safety for them too. Deshaun Anthony figures to be probably my guess to make the 4th position for them. More than likely, maybe they should keep 4 guys. I don't know if they keep 5, especially with Daxton Hill. So we'll see. But Key, Jules, Loyal could also compete. Those guys more likely practice squad candidates for this football team. They got to bounce back. That's the main story of the secondary. And if we're going to be a key for them in this defense in general, they got to bounce back. On to the coaching staff, which will be a huge part of this too. It's a coaching staff where I rank them at 20th, which might be higher than some of these younger coaching staffs. I think this is kind of like this is where they're at, sort of thing. Like, I don't know if I feel like they're gonna jump into the top 10, and that's my big concern with this coaching staff. Like, I like Al Golden, and I'm glad he's back here in Cincinnati. I think he can be a great defensive coordinator for them. It just comes down to like Dan Pritchard, Zach Taylor. I'm still not buying into it. I really am not. Now, I know there's some loyalty in Joe Burrow and everything like that. It's probably saying, hey, let's keep these guys around. I want to make sure continuity and all those sort of things. But at a certain point, I do start questioning some things. So while 20th is kind of like right in the middle of the NFL, like it's to the point where I don't know if I'm going to put them much higher at any point. So with my record prediction, I got them going 10-7 and being the first team to make the playoffs. Well, technically the first team on the way out of the playoffs. So I'm sorry, happy but sorry at the same time, I guess. Either which way, this is going to be my record prediction. The division is tough, but hey, I think they're a good football team with an offense. When you got Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, it's it's tough. It's really tough. You're going to be able to score points. So even if your defense struggles at times, you're still going to be able to win games. I also think their schedule is a little bit more favorable, especially to start out the season this year. Maybe they can get some things rolling early on and then fight off the Ravens a little bit more this season, the Steelers. Once again, let me know what you think, agree or disagree. And I hope you guys have a really good day. Cincinnati Bengals, hoo day!